video, we'll be going over IRS Notice CP113. This is a tax notice that you might receive from the Internal Revenue Service if they detected mistakes or made changes to your Form CT-1 resulting in a tax refund. So basically, taxpayers that are employers that have to file Form CT-1, which is basically the railroad version of Social Security and unemployment tax. That's what Form CT-1 is. So if you think of it as the equivalent for railroad employers, odds are pretty likely that you've never heard of this form. If you have, we're going to go through this so that we can kind of better understand what mistakes the IRS thinks you might have made, at least according to this example, and what your remedies are if you don't agree with their decision. Ultimately, this is a video, or this is a notice that results in a refund. So if you do nothing, you probably will receive a refund. But again, let's go through this so you can kind of understand what you might want to verify before you just accept this at face value. So as always, we're going to start with the top right-hand corner. This is CP Notice 113 for the tax period ending December 31st, 2016. The notice date is just below the tax period. And I point this out because many notices, if there's an action that the taxpayer is requested to take, if the IRS is asking you to do something, usually there's a timeline or some sort of due date that usually coincides with the notice date. For example, you might see a notice that says, if you disagree with this assessment, please contact the IRS within 60 days of the notice date. Things of that nature. So let's take a quick look here to see if there's anything that ties back to the notice date. I don't think so, mainly because this is a notice that doesn't require taxpayer action. So, if you did nothing in this video, you would get a refund. So the IRS isn't really requesting you to do something unless you disagree with the facts that are presented here. So below the notice date is the employer ID number, followed by a contact phone number that you can reach the IRS office, presumably the Cincinnati office, since that's the location that sent this notice. Over here on the left-hand side is the name and address of the taxpayer. So in this case, it's ABC-XYZ Company, somewhere in Hanson, Connecticut. So what I would recommend is that you always make sure to keep your address up to date in the IRS records. If you have just filed your tax return, that should be pretty straightforward. If you filed your tax return with a new address, the IRS will take the time to update your records accordingly to reflect the new address. However, if you moved locations after filing your tax return, you may want to either call the IRS and contact them after you verify your identity and validate your tax record. Then you can change your tax address over the phone, or you can file the IRS Form 8822, or for businesses, IRS Form 8822-B. That's the official change of address form for individual taxpayers and businesses, respectively. So you want to do that just to make sure that you're, if you do receive any notices, they come directly to your new address instead of getting lost in the mail system. So make that change unless you're about to file your tax return. Because even if you're not expecting IRS correspondence, the vast majority of correspondence is sent to taxpayers that weren't expecting anything from the IRS. So be sure to keep that in mind. So let's take a closer look at this notice. Basically, the summary is that the IRS has made changes to your 2016 Form CT-1, resulting in a refund of slightly over $8,000. They basically say that You probably miscalculated your tax deposits. Here is a summarized breakdown of the payments that you made, a tax that you owe, and a failure to file penalty. I am not sure where that came from, but we'll take a closer look. So if you agree with the changes that were made, you don't need to do anything. You should receive a refund check. That amount might include interest. However, it might be, so the interest is taxable. So we'll put, if you do receive interest based on that, we'll put links in the show notes to the forms that we've mentioned. We'll also include IRS Form 1099-INT, which you can expect from the government based on those interest payments. So down at the bottom of this is a contact information slip. If you send any written correspondence to the IRS, please make sure that you include this slip and follow the instructions. So in this case, you would write your employer ID number, the tax period, and the form number. Make sure that that is legible on any correspondence that you submit with this slip. So if you don't agree with any changes, call the phone number listed at the top of the form. You can contact the IRS by mail. Again, make sure that your correspondence is accompanied by this contact information slip. So the IRS default position is if you don't do anything, their assumption is that you agree with the notice. So here's a breakdown of their tax calculations. So let's see. Total taxes before adjustments, $14,431.96. They made an adjustment of $90 based on total wages, so that increased slightly. Total tax deposits to $22,663.71. Here's a breakdown of how that was paid over the course of the year. Basically, seems like the IRS got virtually everything in one day and then a couple of follow-up payments later. Failure to file penalty, which was assessed. So basically the penalty is the net unpaid tax at the beginning of the penalty month following the payment due date. So I'm not sure where they got this $99 failure to file penalty from. If you're due an $8,000 refund, my assessment is that this is part of the example. But if you did receive penalties, you can request an abatement, Form 843. You can request an abatement either based on written advice from the IRS. So if you wrote to the IRS, gave them your situation, and you included all the adequate and relevant information, and the IRS gave you written advice back, which you relied on, and then you came back and found out that you were assessed a penalty, you can request an abatement for that. You can also request an abatement or reduction of penalties for what might be considered reasonable cause or extenuating circumstances. So we'll put a link in the show notes to the article and the video we've created on IRS Form 843. That's the form that you would use to request abatement. And then there's additional information which you can find on the website. It basically summarizes what we just went over in the notice. So railroad retirement tax return, right? So there's a couple of frequently asked questions. There's links to the employer's tax guide as well as Form CT-1. So if you made a mistake that resulted in a significant refund, you may want to take a look at those resources to see, what changes you can make to prevent, this from occurring the next year, or to prevent an underpayment because you overreacted. So it's always good to take a look at these pages, but most of the information that you need is contained in this notice anyway. So that's all we have for this video. As I mentioned, we'll put links in the show notes to the articles and the videos that we've created about some of the forms mentioned in this video. If you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, comments, or if there's a topic that you'd like to see covered in an upcoming video, please hit me up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.